Hello and welcome to TopX, where we count down the very best that YouTube has to offer. Today we're hulking out and checking out the top 10 comic book channels on YouTube. I'm your host Dan, let's get it going. While we received a ton of votes on our suggest page for this list, some of these really didn't qualify as comic book channels, at least by our standards. Now, a lot of these channels are still growing in popularity, so this was a very tough list to put together. Compared to Let's Play or even makeup tutorial channels, many of these guys and gals are still small potatoes, so it's tough to separate the cream of the crop. That said, we put together a pretty good list for you, and we ranked our choices based on a mix of subscriber numbers, views, votes from our users, personal preference, and general impact on the YouTube community. Number 10, Hybrid Network. Coming in at number 10 is one of the smallest channels we've ever seen here on TopX. But what Hybrid Network lacks in subscriber numbers, they make up for with pure devotion to comic books.
When the planet Krypton, his home planet, was about to explode, his parents sent him into space via a prototype rocket.
One thing you may or may not know is that we here at WatchMojo do character origins and versus showdowns. And if I do say so myself, I think they're pretty good. However, if you're looking for another source of character biographies, either because you hate our style or you just can't get enough of them, Hybrid Network does a ton of these as well.
We start off with Jason Todd as a kid. He belonged to an unstable and poor family, his dad being a crook and his mom a drug addict.
Specifically, if you're big into DC and you want to focus on the new 52 iterations of the characters, their bios are definitely something to check out. Hybrid Network doesn't stop there though. They essentially try to cover everything that's comic book related. This includes recaps of comic book shows, news about upcoming movies, and of course, reviews of recent comic book issues.
But yeah, so far the endgame story arc has just gotten better and better with each issue. The main thing I want to see come out of this story arc is a really good ending.
They may still be finding their footing in terms of production value, but their knowledge of the source material is clear throughout. Number 9, Nightwing 01. Next up is Nightwing 01, or K-Wing as he calls himself. Now, his channel is less of a channel about comic books themselves and more about the video games that are spawned from these comic book characters. I say comic book characters, but I really mean Batman. It's very Batman intensive.
You can see we're using the Dark Knight Returns skin.
Wow.
I know, it looks pretty good, although Batman looks kind of tubby.
Actually, truth be told, Nightwing 01 is more of a Let's Play channel with a comic book theme. A quick look at his videos will reveal the sort of gameplay videos and reviews you'd see on your average gaming channel, despite a marked preference for comic book inspired content.
Minifigures featured so far will be Deadshot, who will act as the leader of the group, Captain Boomerang, Harley Quinn, Amanda Waller, Deathstroke, and more to be announced later.
However, there is an exception, and it's a big one, his hashtag Arkham Wednesdays videos. These videos, in a visual sense, are about as bare bones as it can get. Usually, the visuals consist of uncut gameplay from one of the Arkham games.
Don't punch me mid-sentence! I'm trying to get a thought off!
However, during this gameplay, K-Wing goes into serious depth about one aspect or another about the Batman mythos.
Werebat first appeared in Detective Comics number 400, I think, and I know he was created by Frank Robbins and Neil Adams, which Neil Adams is awesome.
Whether it's the history of Alfred Pennyworth or a discussion of Tim Burton's Batman Returns, you're definitely gonna learn something. Number 8, it's super effective. At number 8, we have another channel that's trying its darndest to beat WatchMojo at its own game. It's super effective. That's the name of the channel, it's not the effect that it's had anyway.
Today on the show, we're going to look at the Teen Titans. If you didn't know that over the years, the team has had over 60 members in total, then this show is for you.
It's super effective. It's run by a guy named Faust and his awesome hair. I say he's trying to beat WatchMojo at our own game because he specializes in summarizing the history or backstories of popular comic book characters.
So Raven, Dark Raven, Daughter of Trigon, White Raven, blatantly the best character on the TV show. These are all titles that Raven has used in her career.
While he does have a marked preference for the Teen Titans and other DC heroes, he even dabbles into things like the history of video game franchises like Portal or Zelda.
Today on the show, we're going to look at the Zelda timeline era by era. If you didn't know that by the end of the timeline there's about 7 or 8 or maybe even 9 parallel worlds all going at once, then this show is for you.
Even though these history of clips may not have the production value of some of his competitors, they still make up for it with this really impressive knowledge. So if you're one of those people that just can't get enough character origins, this is another one to check out.
but it was too late and the Joker shoved her into one of the vats of the chemicals, and then the Joker drained it out, and at the bottom, here we found Harley Quinn.
Number 7, J-Roar. At number 7, we shift back to another channel that's not exactly devoted to comic books and more devoted to the other media that's been spawned by the comic books and their characters. One thing J-Roar focuses heavily on is the DC Universe television shows. Lately, this means Arrow, The Flash, and Gotham, and Jay posts a review of every single episode.
We finally get our first look at Adam. The suit looks fantastic. I love it. It looks so good. Now, it doesn't look anything like the ones in the comics, but just because it looks nothing like the one in the comics doesn't mean it's a bad thing.
While he does post scores for each episode, the real strength here is the painstaking detail he goes into, examining tiny little Easter eggs and theorizing on future paths for the story.
Why did Raish really want Oliver's remains? Maybe to bring him back to life and work for the League? Because it doesn't make sense. Why would Raish want his remains?
In fact, it's this combing over of details from movies and TV that he really specializes in. His most popular video is an in-depth explanation of all the hidden stuff in Man of Steel, but his whole channel is chock full of that sort of thing.
And who was in that comic that I think who was in that pot? It has to be none other than Kara. Who is Kara? Supergirl, guys. You know who Supergirl is? The cousin of Superman?
So, if you're the type of person that likes to go through a new trailer frame by frame to find all the little hidden secrets, this is the channel for you. Number 6, Jay Win. At number 6, we shift back to another channel that's entirely devoted to the actual comic books. This is a channel hosted by Jason Inman, who likes to read comic books.
Hi, I'm Jason Inman. Hi, I'm Jason Inman. Hi, I'm Jason Inman. Hey guys, I'm Jason Inman. I like to read comic books.
While there's a bunch of different shows on his channel, the two that I'd like to focus on the most are Geek and Tea and Comic Books Are Awesome. On Geek and Tea, Jason sits down with another fellow geek and they discuss one geeky topic or another over tea, very much in the sort of vlog discussion style that's very popular on YouTube. On Comic Books Are Awesome, Jason personally explains why one comic book or series of comic books is particularly awesome and why you should read it.
Today I'm going to tell you why Red Hood and the Outlaws Volume 1, Redemption, is an awesome comic book and why you should read it.
We actually found out right before we filmed this that Jason is the new co-host for DC All Access, so that's some serious nerd cred.
Yay, Jason! Welcome to the DC family. I'm super excited to do this new season with you, but I feel like we're kind of already arch nemesis here.
Number 5, Nerdsync Productions. Taking a big jump in production value just past the halfway point, we have Nerdsync Productions, who are nothing if not organized. Claiming to provide a deeper look into the world of comics for newcomers and experts alike, Nerdsync Productions is kindly divided into 3 separate segments that publish on specific days of the week.
There's no doubt that Venom has been one of Spider-Man's fiercest foes to face, and the history of the character is just fascinating, especially when it comes to the behind the scenes of how the black Spider-Man costume was created in the first place.
Seeing as the video they publish on Monday is technically just a podcast, and we're doing videos here, we can glaze over that. But you can listen to that on iTunes if it's your thing. On Fridays, they publish Tie-In, which is a short trivia show that's just getting off the ground.
I thought of the name Tie-In, and I'm wearing a tie because it's thematic and kind of comic related. I'm a dumb person.
Now, the real meat of their content lands on Wednesdays with a show they call Comic Book Misconceptions. Without going into too much depth here, these are a mix of history and trivia that's delivered with some rather impressive production value.
It's Christmas Eve and Batman has planned 3 children's parties that night, but each party is missing the most important ingredient, Santa Claus. He and Robin go out into the night on a reindeer-driven sleigh to find 3 people willing to play the parts at the parties.
The host is confident, there's tons of supporting visuals, and it's all just very watchable. Number 4, Comic Book Cast. So, I'm very aware that we're already at number 4 and we haven't seen that many channels that deal specifically with the actual comic books. Well, never fear because the Comic Book Cast is here.
He wakes up and realizes he's missing one arm. Man, what a hangover. We've all been there, right? You wake up, you've lost your keys, you crashed your car, you lost your arm. Simple stuff, right?
Right out of the gate, it's very clear that Comic Book Cast deals with reviews of comic books. What's good about these is that while they do offer visual aids straight from the comic books in question, they also can technically double as a podcast, as you'll get almost all you need from the audio alone.
Thor number 4 was the big torch passing, or should I say hammer passing issue. But did it live up to all my expectations? Well, yes and no.
This quasi-podcast style applies to almost all their videos, even Comic Book Clash, which is a sort of versus battle between 2 major characters. So, if you're the type of person that likes to put on a video in the background while you're doing work or while you're playing Minecraft or something, this is the type of channel for you. Number 3, Comics Explained. Nearing the top of our list is Comics Explained, hosted by the soft-spoken but extremely knowledgeable Rob Jefferson.
The Killing Joke is considered, by all standards of measurement, the definitive Joker story. This is what many people look at and see as the one Joker story above all.
In case you didn't guess, Comics Explained is a channel whose videos are devoted to explaining certain characters, aspects, or themes in comic books. You may have been familiar with Comics Explained under its old name, Marvel Explained. But seeing as Rob didn't stick to just Marvel content, the name change seems appropriate.
And this is a struggle for Batman, and the reason why is because of the Joker's insanity. Again, no one knows what his intentions are.
I know we've seen a number of channels that do this sort of thing, but Comics Explained has some of the best we've seen so far. Although the videos are very long and detailed, there's no sacrifice of visual production value here. In fact, the videos are so in-depth that they're almost closer to being sort of a seminar or a course on the topic. So if you're the type of person that wants to be a professor of the page, as it were, these are the videos for you. Number 2, Comicstorian. It only takes a second watching a Comicstorian video to realize what's been missing from the other 8 entries we've already seen. Dramatic readings. While other channels do origin stories or comic book histories as well, Comicstorian distinguishes their videos by having each one narrated by the eligible monster team.
Batman begins to run off into Arkham Asylum, trying to figure out a way to stop the entire insurrection that is going on at Arkham Asylum, and he gets into many fights in Arkham at this time.
This means that each video is narrated by enthusiastic voices that add a serious dramatic flair to what would normally be a pretty dry, page-by-page summary.
And he allows the adamantium to harden. He can't heal anymore, and that adamantium is indestructible, and he can't even breathe. It's time for Wolverine to die.
I mentioned summaries, and this is another way that Comicstorian distinguishes themselves, by offering play-by-play summaries of the comic books they're checking out. Instead of reading the dialogue, they essentially paraphrase, while describing the action in the panels as well. It basically makes each comic into a short film, which, let's face it, is cooler than reading, am I right?
Originally, Wolverine's claws were the result of them putting too much adamantium into his forearms. But this gets later retconned when they give Wolverine a proper origin, and we find out that he actually has bone claws that the adamantium was bonded to.
Before we turn the page and reveal our top pick, here are a few honorable mentions. Number 1, Variant Comics. As is often the case with our number 1 pick, it's not that Variant Comics does anything particularly different from their competitors, they just do it better. Whether it's character bios, countdowns, or their specialty, versus battles, Variant just seems to do it a bit better than everybody else.
The original purpose and reason for Robin's creation was to attract younger readership, and the idea worked. Robin did attract more readership, and the Batman-related comic book sales doubled.
One cool thing that they do is offer a reading recommendation that's related to the video that you just saw. So if you just watched a history of Ra's al Ghul and you want a cool Ra's al Ghul comic to read, they give you a great recommendation. On top of the reading recommendations, they also throw in what they call a buy list, which is an ultra-quick buyer's guide of what comics you can check out that week.
Batman Endgame, which in the first issue of that story alone, we see Batman fighting most of the Justice League. It was definitely one heck of a way to kick off a storyline.
Lastly, it's also worth mentioning that Variant Comics is the most professional-looking channel we've seen today. This probably won't be too much of a surprise since they're also the biggest in terms of subscribers, but the level of polish their videos demonstrate is pretty much unrivaled by their peers.
Batman is actually the character that got me into comic books, which from there on out opened a whole world of superheroes to me.
Well, that's it for our list. We hope you found something to watch. Be sure to check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Vote on our suggest page for upcoming lists, and for more great top 10s published every day, be sure to subscribe to WatchMojo.com.